Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Jeffrey Adnansyah and today I will present my morphophonology first project. In this presentation, I will explain the part 1 which is free and bound morpheme and part 2 about the 5 case study. Part 1 free and bound morpheme. What is a morpheme? A morpheme is the smallest unit of language that has meaning. Words can be made of one morpheme or more than one morpheme. For example, the word cat has one morpheme, while the word cats has two morphemes, which is cat and s. So, when we study morphemes, we study how words are formed. Next is type of morpheme. Morphemes are divided into two categories. First is free morphemes, and second is bound morphemes. First one is free morphemes. A free morpheme is a morpheme that can stand alone and has meaning by itself. It does not need to attach to another word, while these words already have meaning even when they stand alone. For example, the word book, run, happy, water, friend, which it is a type of free morphemes because it can stand alone, it has meaning independently, it does not need an affix, it works as a complete word, and it meaningful without changes. Next is bound morphemes. Bound morpheme is a morpheme that cannot stand alone. It must be attached to a free morpheme to have meaning. Bound morphemes are usually prefixes and suffixes such as re, an, as, ed, ing, ar, etc. For example, the bound morpheme is an, and the example word is unhappy, which has meaning the negative of the happy. And second example is uh, the word rewrite has the bound morpheme re, which has meaning repeat or again. And next example is the words books has its bound morpheme s, which has meaning the plural form. Next, the key differences of free morpheme and bound morpheme. Free morpheme can stand alone and has a meaning. For the examples, book and run, while bound morpheme cannot stand alone and need a base word to has a meaning. For example, an, as, and add. Like for the conclusion, a morpheme is the smallest meaningful unit in language. Free morpheme can stand alone with meaning, while bound morphemes must attach to free morpheme to form meaning. Next, part 2 case study. Case study number 1. During an interview, a non-native speaker says, I unlike going to crowded places, but my friend likes them. Your task is to identify all morphemes in the sentence, classify each as bound or free morphemes, explain how the prefix "an" and the suffix "s" modify meaning and grammatical function, support your explanation using at least two morphological theories. For the first numbers, morpheme identification, the word I is a free morpheme, the word unlike is a bound plus free morpheme from the "an" and "like." The word go is a free morpheme, ing is a bound morpheme, to is a free morpheme, cloud free morpheme, id bound morpheme, place is free morpheme, as is a bound morpheme, but is a free morpheme, my free morpheme, friend free morpheme, like the like is free morpheme and the s is bound morpheme and then is a free morpheme. Number 2, classification. The free morphemes on the sentence above is I, like, go, to, crowd, place, but, my, friend, them, while the bound morphemes are an, ing, id, as for the plural, and as the other one is for the third singular. Third is explanation for prefix an and suffix s. Prefix "an" is a derivational prefix. It changes meaning from like into the unlike or the opposite meaning. Next is the suffix "s" as a plural into places. It doesn't change word class, only number or inflectional. Next is S as third person singular into likes. It marks tense or grammatical agreement, which is it's an inflectional. And for the theoretical support, the first support is from Katamba, 1993, Morphology, Cambridge University Press. The revisional morphemes create new words with new meaning. Morphological theory 2 is from O'Grady and Archibald from 2016, Contemporary Linguistic. Inflection marks grammatical categories like number and agreement. Next, case study number 2. A local English magazine editor confuses the following pairs. Manage into management, talk into talking, hope to hopeful, play to play. The editor asks you your linguistic insight to explain how these word pairs differ in their morphological process. The task is identify which morphemes are inflectional and which are divisional. Explain the differences in meaning, grammatical function, and word-class change. Show the divisional sequence using key structures. Justify your explanation with morphological principles from two authoritative sources. Well, the first is identify morpheme type. The word management has the type of affix meant, and the morpheme type is divisional, while talking, the word talking has type of affix ing, which is the type is inflectional morpheme. The word hopeful has a type of affix full, and the morpheme type is derivational, while the fourth word is played has a type of affix ed or ed, and the morpheme type is inflectional. Next is the explanation. Derivational morphemes, for example, man, fool, create new words or classes from verb into noun or adjective, while inflectional morphemes, like the example ed and ing, change tense or aspect but keep same word class. For example, the word manage into management, change the verb into noun, which has meaning change of act of managing. The second word is talk to talking, change from verb into the verb progressive, which has meaning it's currently doing. And the third word from hope into hopeful, change the base class from verb into adjective, which has meaning it's full of hope. While the last word is play into played, it changes the verb into the verb with past tenses, which has meaning the action is completed. Number three, morphological tree for the words. Example, management. The management is noun. It changes into the manage verb, and the word man into the divisional. Number four is the theoretical support. First one is the devotional processes change word class or meaning from Bowell 1983, English Word Formation, Cambridge. And second theory is inflectional processes express grammatical relation without changing category from label 2010, introducing morphology, Cambridge. Next, case study number three. Students claim that when is the past tense of go because of the ED rule. You are asked to evaluate the statement. The tasks are analyze why when cannot be explained through regular morphological rules, define suppletion and identify at least two other examples in English, discuss how suppletive forms are represented in mental lexicon according to morphological theory, and last is provide theoretical evidence from linguistic literature. For the first task is when cannot be explained by regular morphological rules because it is not formed by adding ed to go. Instead, When comes from a completely different old verb, which is when, which replaced the past form of go. So the past tense of go is suppletion, which means it uses a different root, not a regular affix rule. Number two, suppletion is when a word's inflected form comes from a different root. For example, the word go change into when, the word good change into better, the word be change into am, is, are, was, or were. Number three, suppletive forms are stored in the mental lexicon as separate words because there is no rule linking in their forms. The brain simply memorizes pairs like go into when and connects them by meaning, not by structure. Number four is the theory. The first theory is from Carstens McCarthy, 2002. Suppletive forms are stored, not generated. While the second theory is from Carlisle, 1988. Suppletion happens when regular morphological rules do not apply. Next is case study number four. You encounter this expression in a student's essay. Greenhouse effect, blackboard, smartphone, pickpocket. The tasks are decompose each word into its constituent morphemes, identify whether each compound is endocentric or exocentric, discuss how meaning emerges from the compound, does the meaning depend on head or modifier, discuss how slash pattern affects compound interpretation, for example, blackboard versus blackboard. The last is use at least two theoretical perspectives to explain your reasoning. The first one is morpheme decomposition. The word greenhouse has two morphemes, which is green plus house. The word blackboard the has two morphemes, which is black plus board. The word smartphone has two morphemes, smart plus phone, and the word pickpocket has two morphemes, which is pick plus pocket. Number two, endocentric versus exocentric identified. The compound word of greenhouse is the type of endocentric because it explains a type of the house. The blackboard, the word blackboard in compound has endocentric type too because it is explain a type of a board. The compound word smartphone has type endocentric because it explains a type of the phone, while the compound word pickpocket has a type exocentric because it explains to a person, not to pocket. Number three, how meaning is formed. In endocentric compounds, the second word or head gives the main category, like house, boat, and phone, while the first word modifies it. In exocentric compounds, the meaning is figurative, so the meaning is outside the literal combination, like for example above, the pickpocket is a thief. Number four, slash pattern. English compound nouns usually have primary slash on the first word. For example, greenhouse in the compound versus greenhouse. It's explain the description. And the second example is blackboard, which is a compound, and versus blackboard. It explains the description. Stress helps us to identify compounds clearly. Next is the theoretical perspective. According to Bloomfield 1933, compounds follow the head modifier principle where the second element acts as the head, explaining why greenhouse, blackboard, and smartphone are endocentric. While Bauer and Lieber 2010 also note that a compound is endocentric if the meaning stays in the same semantic category as the head, while pickpocket is exocentric because the meaning shifts. The stress rules from Chomsky and Hell 1968 supports that compounds show false element stress, which helps distinguish them from normal descriptive phrases. Next is case study number 5. Analyze the word unbelievableness. The tasks are identify and classify its morpheme, which is free or bound, and inflectional or derivational. Next is illustrate the morphological tree diagram showing the order of affixation. Third, discuss how both derivational and inflectional processes interact to create the final word. And last is support your explanation using at least two morphological theories. Number one, for the morphemes identifies. The morphemes an is a type of bound and derivational morpheme which has function as a negative. And the second morpheme, belief, is a type of free morpheme. The function is it has base meaning from this word, from its words. And the third morpheme is able. It is the type of bound and derivational morpheme, and the function is makes an adjective. And the fourth morpheme is ness. It types of bound and derivational morpheme. The function is it makes noun. And the morphological tree, the word unbelievableness or its noun, it contains an morpheme un plus belief or verb plus able plus ness. Number 3, interaction of derivational processes. Able changes the verb belief into the adjective from belief into believable, while un changes the meaning to the opposite from believable into unbelievable. Ness change the adjective into a noun meaning a state or condition. So unbelievableness means the state of being unbelievable. And for the theoretical support, whose theory is from Katamba 1993, derivational affixes change word class and meaning. Is seen in belief into believable and change into unbelievableness. While label 2010 word formation occurs in ordered steps, not all at once, which is matches the layer by layer construction. That's all from me for the morphophonology first project. Thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.